Hello, welcome. Thanks for coming. Got a lot of people in the room, which makes a nice change these days. So I'm Piers Linney. Got quite a few slides, so I'm gonna crack on. I want to try to add some value today, not just talk about esoterics or intangibles. I'm gonna help you try and start to understand how do you build what we call implement AI, an AI-assisted organization, because that is the future of all organizations and everything you do. So we started the business, myself and Alok, who's in the audience today, last year. It's been a rapid sort of amazing ride, actually. We're moving very quickly, growing very quickly. We've got a podcast, the Implement AI podcast, the AI-assisted organization, Apple, Spotify. Tune into that. This is us. My background is, law, banking, finance, done a bit of TV, about artificial intelligence when I was a trustee of Nesta, been in the board of British Business Bank, I advised Sky. We're both sponsors today, which is fantastic. Alok as well. I didn't know when I met Alok that we shared the same tailor, but we'll move on from that. So we have a lot of documentation, so you can go and read this as well. I can't fit it all in today. I've been given 20, 25 minutes. We're going to do a Q&A. So any questions, anything you think that's sort of a burning question about artificial intelligence, what it means, whether it's business, you personally, or society at large, feel free to ask. Huge amount on our website. Go and download that from our resource center. So this is the key thing you need to understand today. There's one thing you take away from this talk today. It is that AI is going to transform everything. And I mean this whether it's an individual, you should be augmenting yourself, using it yourselves, your organization, your business, whether you're a startup. We've got clients with 400 million of revenue, one client maybe with 10 billion of revenue. Doesn't matter where you are in that kind of continuum, it's going to affect everything you do. And this is why, okay? So us humans, I've been an investment banker. I spent my life modeling things, growing at 5%, decreasing at 5%, 10%, whatever it might be. It's linear. We think, we were programmed, we evolved to be, linear beings. That's how we think. Our world didn't change much, really, for 200,000 years. The Industrial Revolution, the first Industrial Revolution, was about steam power, augmenting humans and physical labor. And that was a massive change. What happened there was, obviously, that productivity grew massively, but at the same time, you had the working class and middle class evolved. Demand basically met that supply, and you saw economies grow and wealth was created. You had the second industrial revolution, more sort of consumerism, everything was electrified. The third industrial revolution, let's call that the internet, digital essentially, computers, moving from mainframes to PCs. And I was really clear, I'm not as old as the first industrial revolution, but I was very much involved in the third. And now we're entering the stage of the fourth industrial revolution. This will be the last industrial revolution, really. Artificial intelligence and artificial general intelligence will be the last human-only invention, something to understand. And this is what we struggle with. So we're moving out of a human-first world into a AI-assisted era. And we're not moving into that era, we're in it, okay? And eventually we're going to move to an AI-first world. And that's whether it's you, especially in organizations. Think of it like autonomous cars, where you might have a car that's manual and you have to steer it, to a car where you're asleep in the back, takes you to where you want to go, and there's no steering wheel. So it's not going to happen in one go. There are phases we're going to move through. And what you're going to see, no matter what we do, a lot of startups, knowledge workers, information economy, it's really about cognitive labor. And in the West, in the developed world, that's what we value, is cognitive labor. So you've got probably 5 years until the AIs have already, you see Claude 3 has been launched quite recently. They're competing with us on cognitive labor, both in terms of accessing huge amounts of data, understanding it, multitasking, and being able to assimilate that data, whether it's words, images, numbers, or sounds, especially text, and now video as well. And eventually what you're going to see is this is going to sort of creep into physical labor. So I think within my lifetime, if I keep going to the gym, looking after myself, we will find that it'll be probably legal for my children to drive a car in an urban area. You won't be able to get insurance, Autonomous cars, you now see in the US, they've been rolled out. They're already safer than humans. We're just paranoid about liability and the danger and the insurance aspects of it. And eventually you're going to see our world move from A to B. Eventually, regulators are paranoid about artificial intelligence. Are we using it? Soon, probably within 5, definitely within 10 years, they'll want to deal with artificial intelligence with humans in the loop. It'll be the other way around because it doesn't make mistakes. It's not biased. So you're seeing Lots more news, okay? You see snippets of it. You hear about AI in the news, about artificial intelligence, safety summits, the robots are going to come and kill us, all this sort of nonsense. But what you're going to see is more tangible evidence of artificial intelligence changing, shaping, and transforming our personal lives, but also organizations, governments, and even nation states. I mean, nation states have to think about it. If you want to be competitive, like Saudi Arabia is really sort of betting the farm on this, if you want to be competitive in the future, you have to really become an AI-assisted nation, not just an organization. So you are going to see, mark these words, over the next 12 or 24 months, more and more news like this. Now it's a trickle. It is going to become a stream and eventually a flood of these sort of examples of how it's changed. So Klarna, for example, I don't know if you saw this, they haven't sort of taken out 700 people. They just think that they don't have to employ 700 people in customer service. At Implement AI, for example, we're creating call agents. You know, the days of humans answering phones in first-line support or even doing sales outcall, they're done, they're over within 24 months. The technology is almost there. It's not quite there, but we always say at Implement AI that AI is the worst today, I don't mean tomorrow, it's ever going to be. And going back to my curve, those straight lines are humans. We always think that wherever you are on an exponential curve, that wherever we're sitting, whatever day it is, from that point, it's going to continue at a linear rate. It doesn't. So I always say, think of you walking past a lake, thought experiment. You're walking past a lake, tiny spot of algae on it, huge lake. You walk your dog past it every morning. It doubles in size every day. And after 30 days, that tiny spot of algae has covered half the lake. So how long will it take for the algae to cover the entire lake? You don't have to answer that. The answer is another day. A day later, it's 2 lakes. So you can imagine that's exponential growth. We struggle, humans, to understand it. So I won't dwell on this too much, but AI is not new. You know, you hear about it in the news. Been 50 years of research, 20 years of large organizations and governments trying to develop algorithms and, you know, investing in machine learning. Probably only 2 years of the sort of consumers having access to it. So you're seeing that all that research used to be in different fields. It might be translation, it might be computer vision, it might be some other kind of machine learning use case. What's happened with these large language models is it's been collapsed into one stream of research. At the same time, because winner takes all in this game, billions of dollars, billions of pounds, euros, whatever currency you choose, is flowing into that research. So you've got this collapsed focus, billions of dollars going into it. So you're seeing that exponential growth, that change, evolution, is beginning to happen very, very quickly, almost on a daily basis. And we do a podcast on AI. That's all we do all day, and we struggle to keep up. There's a great, if you haven't read it, a chap called Altman, who's the CEO of OpenAI. He wrote a great blog called Moore's Law of Everything, where Moore's Law is where chips, the efficiency of chips are sort of doubled every sort of 4 years. But you're seeing now it's happening in everything. And in business, you're going to see, I call it the moon pig of everything. So everything is going to become hyper-personalized. Productivity. This is what it's really about. We'll talk a bit about accelerating productivity and also capacity. But, you know, you saw that, you know, when the internet, you may think created huge productivity gains, about 10%. Steam engines, 25%, massive difference. Electricity, huge. This is roughly, research is quite hard to exactly pin it down clearly, but you look at artificial intelligence, the access to productized, commoditized, cheap, cognitive labor, which is more capable than most humans, is going to create an enormous productivity change in terms of everything we do. And this is across individuals, as I said, businesses, nations as well. So there's quite a few bullets here, but I'm going to go through them. So the issue is, as entrepreneurs, which a lot of people are in this room and watching, is that, you know, you're trying to find a niche, okay, and you're trying to find something with a moat that you can scale. And what's happening is that in large language models, which are what AI tends to be built on, they're becoming the infrastructure. So we used to have cloud infrastructure, and we built everything on top, the architecture, the software, the user interface, at the back end, the database. But now the large language models are providing this kind of LLM ops, this infrastructure. And across the top, you can be super innovative. The issue is that you can also be quite easily disrupted. So there's a challenge where, as you're an entrepreneur, if you're in a business, is how do you differentiate? How do you use artificial intelligence to actually make a difference? Because eventually, one day, everybody's going to have it. It's going to be like spell check. And at that point, how do you actually go and differentiate and make a difference and create competitive advantage? LLMs are the new infrastructure. They're also, I'm going at a pace here to get it all out, they're also, like humans, gathering our senses. Yes, it was chat, then it was speech. Now you've got sort of, they can see, they can hear, they'll be able to touch quite soon. If you're creative, your business is creative. If a human could hold the earth, our fingers can tell the difference between a house and a garden shed. That's how sensitive they are. Robotics is nowhere near that yet. That's why it's slightly further out. But cognitive labor is going to be disrupted a lot faster. And you, if you're an entrepreneur in this day and age, you've all suffered from the pain of code, of software projects, trying to create an app or a web or some kind of application. So you have an idea, you have an amount of risk and software development, and hopefully something at the end. That's going away. Code, the new code, is the English language. So very soon, even now, you can kind of talk to computers. It's still quite technical to get it right, but eventually you'll be able to talk to an application, it'll develop code, develop a solution, you can look at it, use it, give it feedback, tweak it, it will just write the code for you. And that will create an explosion in an opportunity for entrepreneurs. So in the long run, every single industry is going to be disrupted, is going to be changed. So the point is, and the whole point about what I'm trying to get across today is this, is in an exponential world, a world where we're in the foothills of this exponential change, is that it's going to be very, very difficult to catch up, right? I do keynotes about cloud, transition to the cloud. The same keynote I was doing 10 years ago. You can't wait 10 years for cloud, for AI. You can't wait 10 years for like digital transformation. In AI, once your competition starts to get that competitive advantage, they're making more margin, more profit, they're more hyper-personalized, they're adding more value for their customers. Once they start to take off, catching up 3-4 years later will be now impossible. So you have to really start thinking about it today. And this is almost every industry. And you can see here that whether you're a lawyer, when I was researching AI at Nesta, probably 8 years ago now, the issue was, and the outcome was if you're creative, you're safe. It was admin assistants, it was Uber drivers, people working in warehouses, the ones that were going to be disrupted. That's not the case. It came for creatives first. If you're a lawyer, if you're a surgeon, if you're an accountant, it's coming for you next because you're a very expensive knowledge worker. There's a huge ROI in replacing you with this technology. So the expensive knowledge workers actually are the ones with the biggest bullseyes on their back in terms of where people are trying to displace them. So where are we now? This is the big question. It's quite hard to pin down, but I think this graph gives you sort of an idea. So we've been sort of trundling along for 200,000 years, maybe 200 years, Industrial Revolution. It took 100 years for the sort of automated loom to be ubiquitous. It took, 50 years for people to really to understand electrified goods in their houses, 20 years for the mobile phone. Now we're into, months and weeks, ChatGPT, TikTok. You get to 1 million users in a month. So you see that change and access to these technologies is moving very, very quickly. So we're going from as Alok always says, really, going from trundling along in a train to getting into an elevator. And you might think I'm exaggerating. This is not the case. If you look at the take-up of new technologies, as I've said before, just then, TikTok, for example, or ChatGPT, if you look at the take-up of things like in GitHub, Microsoft GitHub, people using code, the uptake of usage is exponential, or in some cases, compared to others, it does look vertical. So we are literally at this point now. Now, I can't stand here and tell you exactly when you're going to see this fundamental change, when you're going to see robotics become, a robot that make you a cup of tea, costs the same as an oven or a microwave. But it is coming, and it is coming absolutely in our working lives, probably the next 5 years in cognitive labor, and probably 10 years in robotics maximum. The only issue, again, I'm thinking in linear fashion. In an exponential world, normally, any forecast anybody comes up with, anything, you can typically halve it. And that's what we're seeing generally in artificial intelligence. And you probably all played with it. You probably played with text to image. This was text to image, the top left, about 18 months ago, roughly, number 1. And you've seen it evolve over time, where you think, well, that's pretty good. And everybody always says to us, that implement AI, well, yes, it's good, but it doesn't do this. Or it'd be great if it could also do this. And we always say, this is the Nokia snake. I'm a bit older. It's the ping pong version of this. It's the AI is the worst it is ever going to be. So within 18 months, you've gone from creating pretty awful pictures, look a bit like a pirate, to pretty good interpretation of a Hollywood star. And if you've seen OpenAI Sora recently, about 6 months ago, they had this ridiculous video of Will Smith trying to eat spaghetti, which was an AI-created video. And now in Sora, you're seeing 60-second videos that look like they've been made by a Hollywood studio. Absolutely perfect, just from a prompt. In fact, some studios now have canned billion-dollar rollouts of new sound stages because they don't think they're going to need them. And that's today. And don't forget, whatever we see is the tip of the iceberg. What they've actually really got is that big piece below the waterline. So whatever you see today is literally the tip of that proverbial iceberg. And what you're also seeing as well is exponential change in the amount of tokens. So one of the issues with models, if you've ever used them, is that you want to talk to them, but how much context do you give them? The output you get is only as good as the input. So it's your prompts, it's context, it's the information you provide. And we're seeing it go from, a couple of thousand to 30,000 to 128,000 to now you're looking at 1 million tokens. Tokens not quite, but roughly a word. So now you can upload the entire Harry Potter series. If you put a little paragraph on there talking about space travel, they'll be able to find it. Is that accurate? You can upload that entire series of the books, your prompts, what you wanted to do, how you want to do it, and you'll get an output. And think about these models is, if you do only one thing, it's learn to engineer prompts. Learn prompt engineering. Learn how to get the maximum out of these models from what you put in and what you get back out. That alone will change the game in terms of whatever it is you're trying to do. And what you're seeing, let's talk about different labor. So in cognitive labor, what you're seeing is, this is some research by Harvard, and they did some research on Boston Consulting, so cognitive workers, consultants. And what you're seeing really is that they're doing more, they're completing what they were supposed to be doing more quickly, and the important part is they're better at it. So what you're seeing here, those three factors there, if you think about it, they compound. I wouldn't even multiply them together. I think it's more than that in terms of competitive advantage and the customer experience. So you've seen that in cognitive labor already, it's making an enormous difference. And if you've used it, you'll know and you can see that the potential is there. What you probably are not capable of doing is using it in the way you want to. It's like handing someone a saxophone. Don't know how to play it, you'll make some noise, but it sounds flipping awful. What you need to do with artificial intelligence is understand how to use these powerful tools to extract that value. And then what's going to follow is physical labor, this sort of embodied AI. So eventually in the exponential world, what you're going to see is that artificial intelligence starts to code and it starts to understand how to design artificial intelligence. Then you get that recursive model and the exponential change. Eventually, artificial intelligence will solve, fusion. We'll have cheap power. We'll be able to desalinate water anywhere in the world. We'll have quantum computing with AI running on it. And that will then evolve over time, develop better AI and better robotics. And eventually, you will be able to have a care assistant that costs the same as a washing machine. That's just the nature of the beast. That's the nature of our model. Is the capital flows in, and it's a race to the bottom to make these things affordable. So embodied AI, physical labor. So think about this. It's going to be cheaper, better, faster, and safer. So again, I think that with my children's lifetime, it will be illegal for a human to work on a building site. It's dangerous. You can't get insurance. Why would you do it? Just like the cars. This world can be hard for us to sit here and consider, but remember these words. It is coming. A lot of us are going to see it. So the power of AI. This is my co-founder's favorite image. So we created this I haven't quite got the checkerboards right, but it's not far off. So this is an asymmetric game changer, is that with artificial intelligence, there is asymmetry in the capability, the efficiency, the productivity of you and your organization. And your competitors, if they're not using it, they're not going to beat you. They're not going to be able to compete with you at all. And you're seeing this in McKinsey research saying that the AI leaders are 3 to 6 times ahead in total shareholder returns than the AI laggards, as they call them. And what this does, it's not just about productivity and information in, information out. What this allows you to do is see things your competition can't. So we work with clients that have huge amounts of data, and the AI allows them to see the unknown unknowns, the insights they didn't even know were there. So you have this kind of ability, nothing, think of this dark sky, or dark room. And with AI, you can see things. You have your heat-sensitive camera, or Alok calls it your sort of predator vision, whatever it might be. So you can see things that others can't see. And that means you can create better products, better experiences, and create more value. If you're raising money, if you don't have a story that explains how you're going to leverage this technology compared to your competition, then you're going to find it harder and harder to actually raise cash. And what this does, there are three things that we focus on, really. In the near term, this is going to change. It keeps changing all the time. One is interactivity. So hyper-personalized. You might have 1,000 customers, okay? And you might send one email to them all every week, every month. You might have 5 different emails, depending on a persona that you send to them. So there's one for 200. With this technology, you can send them a personalized video of you talking with your lips moving in the right way in any language to your 1,000 customers, 1,000 separate emails, personalized to them, where they are, what language they speak, what product they bought, where they are in your sales cycle, where they are in your sales funnel. That's the future. It is hyper-personalization. So if you imagine you've got a business, a prospect comes in, you get this hyper-personalized response, and somebody else says, join our newsletter. Who's going to win that client? Who's going to win that prospect? Who's going to close that deal? The second one is speed. AI agents, what we develop, help you work faster. They don't have holidays. They work 24/7. They don't tend to make mistakes. And they are incredibly capable in terms of accessing information, using it, and working at great speed. You're seeing technology, the CPU move to GPU, move to LPUs. The tech underneath them, underlying technology, is also changing. So these things are working faster. And the big one really is capacity. You can multiply these things together, but it's capacity. We all want to do more with less. You hear a lot of the AI leaders saying that there will be $1 billion business, a unicorn, with probably less than 5 employees. That is possible in the near future because most of the employees, the embedded ones crunching data, the ones talking to your prospects, the ones doing the work and delivering the product or the service, they can be completely automated. So capacity is the big one. If you can do more with less, competitive advantage, more margin, more profit, and more valuable business, and at the end of the day, you're creating wealth, which is what we're all here to do. So as you go through this no AI world, you might have some SaaS you're using. Software as a service is also going to struggle. You're kind of forced in a way to run your business the way they want you to, because that's where they can see the biggest market opportunity. In this future, you can run the business the way you want it to. And you can create technology and software, your own SaaS essentially, for your business that runs it and operates and deals with your customers and interacts with them how you want to. And that's going to be your big differentiator. And as you move through, you'll have an AI-assisted world, what we're in now, what we have to really embrace. And eventually you have this world where it's AI first, where AI is almost autonomous. You're really QA, your oversight. And that is where you have these unicorns with 5 people. And that is coming as well. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, kind of what we do, but AI implementation is not a company-wide project, okay? You've got to think about what workflow, what process, what blocker, what is it in my business that can be automated, clearly. That makes a big difference. No point having a dream, something that's impossible to automate. But what is it that I can use today to make a difference, to create more margin, to speed your business up, create capacity, accelerate growth, reduce costs, optimize costs? And that's where you start. So we look at all your departments and we work in from hardly any AI and we keep automating workflows, processes, even just training makes a big difference in terms of people, how they understand this. And you slowly move in until the whole organization becomes as automated as it possibly can be. And the other graph really is this move from having your basic infrastructure to using ChatGPT, to using general AI. And the more and more people will be able to do this over time. But eventually you have specialist AI, fine-tuned AI trained for your business, specialist agents. You start using AI in ways that your competitors and other people aren't. And that's where you create sustainable competitive advantage. But that journey is not simple. You've got to start today and start moving along that continuum. So having no plan for AI, I'm telling you right now, I do a lot of these talks. I've run lots of businesses, some have worked, some haven't. But I'm telling you, this is bigger than the internet, right? That's why it's a wave I'm paddling really hard into. It's bigger than the internet. Having no plan for AI is a bad plan. And it's going to get worse over time as an exponential curve. As we move along it, we move up to the right. AI advantage really is about creating sustainable, probably if you get it right, permanent competitive advantage, but that means you've got to continually change and track its evolution. You don't want your colleagues or your employees using AI without you understanding, having shadow AI. You need to have policy governance in place, understand what they're doing. And training, training is the first key, is understanding how does it work, how do I use it, how in our organization, our model, and in doing what we do we use this technology today to add the most value. So if there's one thing you do, it's training, and the other thing to do, which can be quite hard, is keeping up with it. And if you can't do it, bring people in that can. So I'm going to leave it there. There's a huge amount of information there for you to absorb, and we're going to open it to Q&A. So anything about this, or ideally, but feel free to ask me anything, to be quite frank.
First class. Thank you very much, Piers. The only problem, Piers Linney, is I'm going to have to re-watch that because there was so much good stuff in there, wasn't there? So thank you. Luckily, it will all be up on the Elite Business Live website. Thank you. And we've got a few minutes for questions. Maybe we'll take one from the room and we can take some online as well. So do raise your hand if you'd like to ask a question. I see one. I'm looking around. Let's just have a scan. Here we go. How about this? There you go. Why don't we go to that one there? What are the ways in which AI can improve performance for my small business? Help us get a sort of a carousel of ideas. Go.
So again, it's not about your whole business. It's picking the workflow, the process, the people that need the most help in certain ways. Where's the blocker? Where can you create the most value? Sales growth, so personalization is a big one. But think about how, not really about taking people out and taking costs out. Really, let's all think about growth. But how do you grow without linear costs, so your margin's not stuck? How do you grow where your costs remain the same? So you're creating more margin, really. So again, you can't boil the ocean. Go and look at people, workflows, processes, and pick off the ones that you want to automate.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. We'll take some questions. I think we'll go. Why don't we go to this sort of fifth or sixth row and then to the second row? Is that all right? Thank you very much. Feel free to, we're coming towards you in the black top. Feel free to say who you are. You don't have to. Thanks for keeping questions coming in online. Got to be super snappy. Thank you.
Sure. I'm Teresa from Palader and from California. And how do you keep up with regulation? Because in the US, we have federal, state, county regulations, city regulations, and now the most stringent is New York City with Law 144 to keep track of AI models.
Great question.
So how do you manage it?
I could bore you to death because I'm a lawyer by training. We're actually, you probably, we'll move it later over a long coffee. But essentially, regulation, I'm a lawyer, right? Regulation struggles to keep up with society and business. It's usually 5 or even 50 years behind. I mean, look at vaping, for example, right? So this is never going to keep up. It's impossible. So they've got to start thinking about what's called anticipatory regulation, or providing almost like a regulatory sandbox that we can then work within. But they're going to get, some of it's going to be right, some of it's going to be wrong. Big one's been like copyright law. So you're seeing that copyright hasn't caught up, but the court's trying to deal with it on a public interest level, because the state doesn't want to kibosh this technology, because if it does, another country will not have the same regulations and will get ahead.
All right, we'll come back to that in our panel. Second row here.
Hi, Piers. I'm Danny. I'm the founder of Steam Arena, and we're going to fix the education system. I want to know about AI. What would your advice be to educators? Now, a lot of people in this room probably don't come from education. We're all business people, entrepreneurs.
Thanks, Danny. By educators, you mean parents, teachers?
Teachers. I'm a school governor. Right. I brought it up a couple of months ago. It's not on the syllabus.
So I actually wrote a blog on this on my website, pierslinney.com blog. Go and read it. It's about navigating your career and your children's careers as well in the age of AI. So I can't really answer it. I haven't got time now. But essentially, it's thinking about, look at AI and where it's going, cognitive labour, physical labour, and try and choose a path that doesn't intersect with it. So things that are, things that robots can't do. Cognitive labour, we're all going to struggle, to be quite frank, eventually. But creativity, fine motor. So the big thing is, I'll probably finish on actually, is this. We value cognitive labour highly. Hedge fund managers, bankers, like I used to be, okay, lawyers, right? In the future, technology can do it. So we might find in the future, masseuse, hairdresser, a stonemason might be earning the big money because they have skills that technology can't compete with.
Excellent. Good food for thought. By the way, anyone who claims to know the answer to that question would all be suspicious. Anyone who wants to discuss it...
And if you're solving education, let me know, I'll invest.
Yeah. Danny, to be continued. All right, the guests here in the studio, why don't we all join in thanking the brilliant Piers Linney. Thank you, Piers.